fear is the absence of faith. If you had absolute faith, you would not have fear. Everything happens, all the activations, all the growth, everything you've ever wanted as a human activates when you let go of fear.
Welcome to Soulpod, where science meets mysticism and your inner wisdom leads the way. I'm your guide, Crystal Cassidy, and together we will bridge the seen and the unseen, science and spirituality, the practical and the profound. From quantum physics to energy centers, near-death experiences to extraterrestrial contact, join us as we delve into the mysteries of consciousness and journey together towards a more awakened, compassionate, and soul-connected world. Find your seat, drop in, and let's go on a journey together. Welcome back, light beings, to another episode of Soul Podcast. Crystal here. I am so excited about this conversation. I know that I say this every week, but truly, I think you're going to feel like the conversation here today is like a late night fireside chat about the multidimensional nature of reality. And we're going to go deep and we're going to go into a lot of different directions. And I'm so excited to welcome Jake. He is the host of Midnight on Earth, a lifelong student of the otherworldly and unknown. Jake Weaver is here on behalf of the universe, and for nearly 30 years, he's been traveling, researching, and piecing together the great puzzles of knowledge to help humanity evolve into its highest potential. He's a man on a mission, and that mission is to activate consciousness. I think we're very aligned on that mission, and to help uplift the collective and help us ascend into new levels of success. That is our birthright. And we'll also talk about the new earth. I know we talk about this a lot in the spiritual communities, but what is it? What does it look like? Are we in it now? What does the future of humanity look like? And what's the big possibility that's available to all of us? So welcome, Jake, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Crystal. I really appreciate being here. This is amazing. Thank you for having me.
And for those of you who are tuning in only on audio, I really encourage you to also check out video because Jake has an amazing setup that is just beautiful and cosmic and full of crystals. So check it out.
Not many people see this on the show, actually. My show is audio-based mostly, and the guests that I have on see the crystals, but not very often does it make it out this way. So honored to be here.
Thank you. It's so beautiful. And these are big crystals. They're not just little ones. These are big,
They're my
beautiful
allies.
rocks.
I love these.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah, it's amazing. So Jake, you call yourself a lifelong student of the otherworldly. And so where did that curiosity begin? How did your journey begin? And how did it evolve from that initial curiosity?
Well, it really just starts with being a person that was attracted to things that were outside of the spectrum of normality, right? Like when I was very young, science fiction, things like that, comic books, I loved it.
Science fiction, that was for me, yeah, too. Very, very big portal.
It is because it allows you to imagine. And in that dimension of imagination, anything's possible. And that's really a big key component of visualization, people will say. But just in general, in that imaginal realm, anything's possible. And fiction shows us these worlds, these ideas that are potentials, right? They're potential possibilities. So going there as a child and then having that ability to suspend disbelief, to go into these worlds with your consciousness as you're imagining fully and kind of fill in the gaps. You know, as a kid, we had this ability to do that. We kind of let go of that as we get older, but that was a catalyst. All of the concepts, everything that was within that, because a lot of the writers, whether it's science fiction or comic books of that era, they're looking for inspiration. They're drawing from things to be appealing, to create stories that are interesting. So they're pulling from esoteric history. They're pulling from religion and spirituality and all of these things to craft these stories. And that's how I was able to find these concepts early on.
I love that you mentioned science fiction. I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast before, because that was been such a huge portal for me as well growing up. I was reading Michael Crichton, I think. I read Sphere very young, probably too young, you know, it was a little
That
intense.
was our era, you know, whatevs.
And Dune was a huge inspiration for me, and of course Star Wars. And it's so interesting because exactly what you're talking about, the creators of these imaginary worlds, the deeper you go into their process, it's so interesting. There's always this spiritual channeled component of those creations coming forward, whether it's Dune being inspired by psilocybin trips and the blue, element in Dune is meant to represent psilocybin, and Star Wars and the kind of the force and everything. So science fiction and spirituality have a really beautiful relationship, and I'm actually writing a science fiction novel as we speak. I'm probably like 2 weeks away from finishing my fourth draft, so very
Congratulations.
thank you. It's been 8 years, so it's been a while, but it's a medium that I can pour into and imagine, when we talk about a new earth and what's possible for the evolution of humanity, a lot of what I'm writing about is really mapping that out and letting us really feel into what that possibility could look like. I'm curious, did you always feel like you were on a mission from a young age, or did it kind of emerge for you as you got some of that information?
Well, as I grew up and had a strange life, because as I'm sure we'll talk about later, we carry this star seed frequency. We just have anomalous lives. Strange things happen. We're always the black sheep, the outcast. But within that, there's this grace that seems to nurture those people and take care of them. But the grace is extra dimensional, it's not linear. So as a person that's outside of the norm energetically, you notice these nonlinear patterns showing up and it becomes like a form of communication. So you start to notice these things. So you're like, well, the awareness of these things is happening as you're growing up. You're still trying to participate in this human thing and do the human thing and actually still think you're a human and even a physical body. I mean, identifying as the body, that's still there, but all the anomalous activities, the strange things that happened. And even when I was very young, I was outside and I lived in South Florida near Fort Lauderdale, so on the east coast of Florida. So
Mm.
I was outside one day just in my front yard playing with some toys or something like G.I. Joes, or I don't even know what they were, Transformers. I'm not sure. But I was outside and I distinctly remember hearing an audible voice. That wasn't like someone yelling. It wasn't someone down the street. It wasn't anything external. It was internal, but it wasn't my internal dialogue. And the
Mm.
voice said, you are destined for greatness. And I
Ooh.
took that to heart. I was like, what the heck was that? Because clearly it was a woman's voice. It wasn't anywhere around. There was no one around. My parents weren't even there. No one was there.
So it was internal. It was
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
But it was audible. And some people talk about how they pick up messages and that audibility shows up as feeling. This was more than feeling, it was actual audibility. Now,
Mm.
that was noticeable to me, but it was just cataloged into all of the other strange events that I'd experienced. I grew up in a haunted house, so I had to navigate dealing with spiritual activity as a child.
Was that scary for you as a kid?
Very much so. It was terrifying,
Yeah.
in fact, but because I couldn't tell anybody. My parents were, they were like the type of people that worked 60 hours a week. They're very
Yeah.
distant, typical American kind of late 80s, early 90s childhood. And they weren't approachable, especially about things like that. So
Yeah.
I had to just deal. Like I had to navigate those energies as a child, knowing I couldn't tell my parents, knowing I literally had nothing to do about it but deal with it. So
Mm.
I had to learn how to identify those energies, work around them when they were terrifying, how to leave the space. But it wasn't until really I left that house that those things kind of ended.
Interesting. I was just talking with somebody this morning about the stigma, and it still exists, but it's starting to loosen up about the conversations around entities and ghosts and extraterrestrials, and it's all kind of interdimensional experiences and different experiences of consciousness. But why do you think there is that stigma? I mean, I was wondering, a lot of it is about the unknown, right? We don't
Right.
fully understand it. We don't fully understand what a ghost is and how does it happen and why does it happen and what extraterrestrials are. And so there's a lot of unknown in that conversation. I'm curious what you think. why it is that there is still this fear and kind of stigma around these spiritual interdimensional spaces and entities.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's definitely fear. I mean, it's fear, it's human development plateaus, it's resonant
Mm,
energy fields intersecting, and the field itself, knowing it has to evolve energetically, it doesn't have a consciousness in the sense that it says no, but it sends that energy back to the physical body through the subconscious, and that then activates those defense mechanisms that says, no, I don't want to evolve, I like my plateau, here I am. And so there is that fear, because all of that information and how we intersect with it is beyond five sense linearity. And some people have that very tangible idea. If you can't see it, smell it, hear it, taste, touch, that doesn't exist. So when they're presented with evidence that undeniably proves that it's real because you feel it, it's everything, it's in your soul, it's more real than real, then you have to face that reality. And some people cannot face that reality. Most people cannot face that reality because also, not only are they afraid of that general development for whatever reason, a lot of these humans here, but they're also afraid of death. They're saying, okay, well, if that dimension is real, then that means that at some point I'm leaving here and going somewhere else. I'm ejecting the mobile biosuit and leaving this dimension. And that's terrifying
ooh,
for people that do not have self-knowledge, that do not understand that energy just exists. Like if they don't get the downloads, if they don't get the memo, which for whatever reason, it happens for people, everybody has a different path and that's okay. But if they don't get that message, then they don't know and they're trapped in that fear of death. Death is like just another transition. It would suck right now if I died, like it'd be a bummer, but like for my family, especially, but like, and my
yeah.
friends, but like, it's okay. It's like you're walking into this other thing, and it's
Mm,
experience aspects of it with psychedelics and the biggest trips and the biggest experiences that a person can have. But ultimately, it's like letting go of that fear of death is part of it. And that's why if we let go of the fear, then everything unlocks. Fear is the root of most problems. Fear is the absence of faith. If you had
ooh,
absolute faith, you would not have fear. If you understood that your relationship with the divine is so perfect and so beautiful, and that the love of the divine will always nurture and take care of you as you stay in that resonance, then there is nothing to fear. And you get
mm.
over that. Everything happens, all the activations, all the growth, everything you've ever wanted as a human activates when you let go of fear.
I want to double click on so much of that. So much of that is so great. I totally agree. And when I was going through my severe illness, one of the mantras that came to me, and it seems so simple, but this was like something I lived by in my recovery and for about a year, it was faith over fear. It was just hammered into my mind. It was faith over fear. And the fear that I was moving through at the time was what everyone has on some level, which is a fear of death. It's a fear of non-existence. But to your point, I love that you say, if you haven't gotten the memo that death is not the end, and it's not just wishful thinking, it's foundational science, which I think we'll start to understand. What is it that magic is just science that we don't yet understand?
Correct.
So it's a continuation of energy, which is your consciousness. And all of this connects, to your point, to death, because interdimensionality is beyond the body. Like you were saying, it's non-linear. I love that you and I both have similar vocabularies. We talk about the linear and the non-linear. And these states that are available are the non-linear states. And I can totally understand some people's or most people's knee-jerk reaction to some of those experiences, because the mind wants to keep you safe. The mind is the body in so many ways. And that was such a big component. And if we start to hack away at fear in ourselves and then in the collective, I think we start to walk into this concept we call a new earth. So I'd love to hear from you how you think about this concept of a new earth and what it could mean for humanity.
Absolutely. I just want to touch on one more thing about the fear
Yeah.
aspect. It's very important before we move on to the new earth stuff, which is going to be so beautiful. The new earth is beautiful. We're also dealing with the fact that as we talked about, we're light beings in physical vehicles. You're not your body, you're in your body. So
Yeah.
that body has its own consciousness, right? It's like much like, let's say, a horse or a different animal that has independent consciousness, and we're in that vehicle. So that fear of death is also a part of this physical vehicle's consciousness's fear
Mm.
of death. And internally, not only do you have to deal with the ego and the persona and these things that really want to stay bound to the third dimension, you also have to deal with this physical being, this creature you're inhabiting that you love so much, this beautiful body you're in. You have to deal with this being letting go as well. And it has
Yeah.
its own survival and defense mechanism. So all of those things come into play. And as you're saying, getting over fear is, yes, an aspect of moving into that new earth, because
Mm.
people talk about 5D, and as we move into this new earth, there's going to be a more fifth dimensional reality, people will say. But ultimately, all they're saying is it's going to be a more love centered and love based, love foundational reality. And when you come from that place, everything else happens. So yes, the fear will be gone. Everything will be gone when love is like the throbbing carrier wave of all reality. It already is. We just have to shift our awareness and allow all of that to be present for everyone.
It's a very exciting possibility. And I think it's closer than we think it is. It might feel far, but I feel like it's closer than we think.
I
And
agree. I totally agree.
yeah, and going back to, since most people who are listening know that I use the term light being a lot in Soulpod, on the podcast, and there's a really specific reason on why I use that term. And I use it as a reminder to what you just said, which is that we are not just this meat suit. We're not just the beautiful, beautiful vessel that you have in this lifetime. We are this energetic entity, this interdimensional being. And I've been getting this very distinctly from beings that I interact with in other dimensions sometimes. But they've been telling me that there's many worlds that meet point in time that we're at, where there's a lot of change all at once. So we're not necessarily unique in that way. But where we may be more unique is that that's all happening at the same time that we're realizing we're interdimensional. And I thought that was such a cool point that they made, this realization of interdimensionality. Which, what is interdimensionality? It means that you can move from this three-dimensional space into other dimensions of experience. So that means, like, the easiest one to kind of wrap your head around is beyond time, because time's a component. So if you can move beyond time, that's a whole different type of experience, and other information is possible when you move beyond the physical. And I think that we can do this through quantum states in our brains, and the brain is a receiver of consciousness, and we can go into all that. But I love the term light being for that reason, because that is inherently who we are at the base level. All of us are, no matter where you come from. And ultimately, likely most, if not all, what we call life forms in the universe. So I'm curious, I feel called to ask you this question. Have you ever experienced an ego death in
Today,
any kind
or like this
today?
week, or what are you talking about? Yes, I mean, of course. I spent a chunk of my life, especially in my 20s, pursuing kind of consciousness exploration, and I was very tied to the American jam band scene. If you have international listeners, it's essentially a psychedelic subculture in America that was based around the band The Grateful Dead. But after Jerry Garcia died in 1995, which is now 30 years ago, the scene continued, and there were so many other bands, and they had that same kind of shamanic framework of taking people on a musical journey, a psychedelic journey, 2 sets, having a set break, the community building. All of that was a huge, huge part of my life. And during those years, there was the impetus, and actually even part of the culture, to explore your consciousness with various substances. So, I, as they say, got on the bus and took the ride. I'm actually one of the probably few people that are still alive that got to take LSD with Ken Kesey and all the merry pranksters at one of the last acid tests in Eugene, Oregon in 1998.
Wow.
And yeah, I was still a teenager. I had a fake ID. They didn't even check my
Oh,
ID.
really? That's wild.
I had one, and there were, people passed around vials and we got so high and it was so amazing. And I got to have that experience. And so it's always been embedded in me to push it out there. So the ego death is a part of that. As you go out there and you activate, especially with DMT, you activate that higher awareness, you get to the self, you get past the monkey mind, you push that thing aside, you're over there in that place. That is ego death because you're not judging yourself, you're not judging your peers, you're not judging anything, you're not judging the moment. You are just there as, like you're saying, that light being as an expression of the divine with the divine in complete resonance. And let me tell you, you're picking up on a lot of information. Your awareness is expanded, so therefore you're able to process more information that you don't normally access, but you get to access when you're in those places. So the ego death does happen, and it was very life-changing for me when those things happened.
Yeah, that's one of the pivotal moments for me as well. I did ayahuasca and as my first psychedelic.
Oh yeah, just wow, just like going for it, huh?
It's just that's definitely the nature of my personality. Yeah, I became nothing, and lots of people think that that sounds scary to become nothing, and it comes back to this conversation around death and the concept of the self and who it is that you think you are, who it is that you think you're becoming aware of. And once that gets pushed to the side, to your point, you can access all kinds of information because otherwise you're limited through the mind, through the personality and the filters that accompany that. And so when you let all that go and you're just out there as nothing, it's incredibly freeing, but it's an experience that's also hard to put words to. But once you've experienced that, your relationship, I think, to the self, and it sounds like this was the same for you, changes forever because
Absolutely.
you can't unexperience that. And you start to become more aware of the conscious and subconscious thoughts that you have on a daily basis. You're like, oh, that's not really me. There's some space between who it is that I really am and those thoughts, which is so helpful for spiritual development. So I think it seems to be a core theme I hear in people who are awakening is that experience one way or another. However you end up coming to it, whether it's in meditation or spontaneously or psychedelics is an amazing opener for that. Most people tend to have that ego death or confrontation in some way. And I remember when I was coming back into a construction of self after that, the first thought that I had was, I like myself.
That's
Which
beautiful.
it's a beautiful thought. And for a long time, I was like, oh, look at me. And then I also realized it's still the ego. It was my reconstruction of the foundations of self. And luckily, and thankfully, that was a really nice place to start. But it was interesting to me that that was still the ego.
Right. Well, it has a purpose. I mean,
It
the
has a purpose.
ego
Yeah.
has a function. There's a reason that it's there. It helps keep us in individuation and honestly helps us recognize our talents and recognize
Yeah.
our service and develop that. And that's part of, I would say, the journey as we talked about through my younger years and then in this jam band world, psychedelia. I only went to Burning Man once in 2008, but I did tap into that world a little bit,
Yeah.
enough to see it and get it for sure. But the thing is that all of that then impels you to action because you get these downloads. Because there's a certain point where you're like, you don't really need to take those substances anymore unless somebody
Exactly. Yeah.
they like to refresh themselves. They like to clean themselves out energetically. Some people do that and that's okay. But for me, I kind of hit like a glass ceiling with it where I wasn't getting any new information and I didn't really want it to be like just an experience enhancer. But the information
Mm.
that I was getting was that there was an impetus, a mission, and the mission was to bring people to this higher consciousness that I was experiencing in those states. Now, later on in life, I had the language to kind of understand, and I learned the language to talk about the energies I experienced and then the mission and how that tied into my multi-life journey as a light being, because we're these souls, right? On this multi-life journey as light beings. We leave this body, we go to the next one. So many people believe. I believe that. So
Mm.
that energy and that of those experiences were the catalyst to say, hey, there is this mission, right? And as we've talked about, Crystal, you and I, we're only here for 5 minutes as human beings. Like we're in this
Such a
body, we're
short
out.
time.
We're in, we're
Yeah.
out. And literally, when people are on their deathbed, they feel like time compresses, like time condenses, and their whole life feels like it's 5 minutes long. I've had people tell me that on their deathbed. So that energy of the 5 minutes and that compression and the illusion of time is real. So if we're here for this short time, we've got to do something. We've got to do something. And you know what?
Yeah.
People say, well, you also have to, take time to relax and do these things and experience things. And that's true. And personal development is so integral, but we're not there yet. Like we're in this version of reality where the work still needs to happen, right? It's not in celebration time yet. It's not party time yet. We're not in the new earth yet. It's here vibrationally, energetically, in a quantum sense. When you remove time from the equation, yes, it's here. You can feel it. Energy sensitive people can feel it, but as it stands right now in linearity, we are not there. So a lot of people get caught up in the development and then it's almost like a celebration. They're like, oh, I'm going to just do this and this and this, but they're not taking the action. The mission impels us to action. All of these downloads, all of these experiences that make people stand out in the spectrum of the human experiences. You could say the enlightened ones, the star seeds, however people want to process that, those people getting that information means that they have a job to do, right? That they chose to be here, that there's a mission, there's a purpose for their life. And so getting caught up in the experience, getting kind of lost in the sauce, you could say, is a little bit of a trap because really it's about taking action. You get the mission, you get the downloads, and then it's about getting us to the new earth. Then we'll celebrate. It'll be amazing. We'll do all of these things to celebrate as one human family. It'll be beautiful, but we're not there yet. And we're here for 5 minutes. So the work, doing the work, however that shows up for a person is the most important part for me.
That I felt so much energy in my body as you spoke about that, because I don't think there's too many people that are talking about that component of doing the work. That's also the tool of the ego, the personality. That's why we have that in this incarnation for 5 minutes on the planet, is to be a channel for us to do the work on this planet in this lifetime and to learn as we do. And I totally agree with you that a lot of times, and it's tempting because when you start to get into a more vibrational experience, and psychedelics is a key, but meditation and other work is really stepping into the room and making it your own and seeing more as you do, but bringing it back into this experience, right? And not just living in the vibrational, in the potential, but bringing that potential into Earthside. And I totally agree with you that sometimes we can get a little lost in that. And I also agree with you that the new Earth isn't here yet. We're in the birthing, we're in the channel of it. And when you're in that birth process, individually and collectively, it can get a little dark, a little challenging. You don't really know where to look. But this is what we were brought here for. This is what
we chose it.
We chose it. This is why we're here. So you're not here, everybody listening, you're not here by mistake. You're here at this time on this planet in your body for a very specific reason. You came here to do something, to learn something, and to experience something. And I just love that reminder that we're only here for such a short moment. And so let's get after it. Like let's learn and dream and create and do. I think for me, the days of meditating in a cave, that serves a very specific purpose of bringing certain information in. But that's, we need to also do the thing and bring that forward and connect and be humans and that at the same time.
Again, it's not time to celebrate yet. It's totally not time to celebrate that. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We came here to make that. Let's build that for our future generations, which will be ourselves, perhaps reincarnated. But if it's our children, our friends' children, however that shows up, let's build that new earth together for them. That's what we're here for, like you're saying. And so many people feel like, oh, well, I just can't do these big things. And that sounds so, overwhelming in a way. But let me tell you, personal development, if you're only working on yourself, that's enough. Because if a light being is, let's just say, looking from the direction, from the distance of Alpha Centauri through a giant telescope, and they're like, they see just light moving forward. They're like, I don't know who's doing what, but it looks like the humans are figuring it out because the thing's moving forward. So it's like your work on yourself is equally as valuable as someone
Huge.
creating a situation that affects hundreds of millions of people. It's all quantum. Why are you quantifying things? Work on yourself.
Yeah.
Make that the universe. You are the universe. Like, be that. It will ripple out. Develop yourself. It's just as important.
I would say it's even more important. You're heal yourself. And I heard this in my ayahuasca experience. Heal me, heal the world, and me being the self in all of us. And it's so cliche and it's so simple, but it's cliche because it's true. And once we deal with our own fear, our own limitations, our own limiting beliefs, that unlocks so much from there because, like you said, it's quantum. And the vibration or the frequency that you're starting to hold yourself connects with everything else, not just on this planet, but across space and time.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, start there and then and go and start there. Just start there.
Yes, and that new earth is, like we're saying, already there. It's already happening in a quantum sense. I've felt it. I know Crystal's told me she's felt it as well. Like, we felt this energy, and so many other energy sensitive people have. It exists because it's the natural evolution of a loving, progressively minded reality. If development, if life is for expansion and further expression and never for retraction, which life force is, then that means love and life, which are intertwined, the same thing, that's moving forward. Our destiny is to go to that higher octave of existence, but we just have to get there. Again, the action, doing whatever you can that matches your talents, your abilities to raise the vibration of reality, because your effort is just as equally as important as anyone else's. As we talked, it's so important. But that new earth is all of us understanding. I think a huge component of it is all of us understanding that we are the light beings first. We have this human experience. We show up in a lot of different ways: age, gender, nationalities, different religions, all of these different expressions of this human vehicle as it shows up. But all of that is there. Above all of that, the uniting factor, the uniting principle is the light being. All of us being light beings is the thing that connects every single human on this planet. So when we start there and we remember with that we're this universal light being family, then our relationships, how we honor our history, our ancestry, our lineage, how we honor each other and love each other is going to absolutely and radically shift. That's the fifth dimensional perspective, allowing that love in and the truth that we are beings of living light.
Just a quick moment to say, Soulpod is a bootstrapped, female-founded company built with a whole lot of love for people like you. And we just launched a new feature called Portals, bite-sized journeys like the beginner's portal, the integration portal for when you're moving through big changes in your life and your spiritual development, and even soulscapes with a timer to soundtrack your solo time. You can find the link in your show notes, and if you're vibing with this episode, follow the pod so more light beings can find us. Yeah, the light being, so the component of the light being, your consciousness, your essence, I think an important reminder for everybody is that component part, that essence is the same for everybody. So it's the realization that you are interdimensional, you are consciousness, you are light. And it's light in this, like, it's not like light from the light bulb. It's this like cosmic light. I don't know if that's the best way I can put it.
It's the light of God. It's the divine spark.
Yes, there we go.
That's what it is. I mean, it's this
Yeah.
real, people don't like to say God. I'll say it. Like, it's the light of God. It's the divine spark. It's the thing that connects you to source. There's no like chopping point. There's no line of delineation from you and source with the divine life spark. Like, that's within you. Ask a mortician, when the body's on the table, there's no light in it. It's gone. It's empty. It's an empty vehicle. That light of consciousness, scientifically, I can't put language on it, but what I can say spiritually is that line of consciousness is what connects all of us, like I was saying, but it is source.
Mm.
It is also source.
It's source. It's beyond the Big Bang. Yeah, and it's that's also a realization that you are me, and this concept of other. That's another big component I feel like with the new earth is that we realize that we are the other and the other is me. And
Absolutely.
all spiritual traditions and religions talk about this in some way or another. But it's taking a lot of what we're talking about, it's like taking these concepts that have been around for so long. And the new earth feels like an embodiment, an actual lived experience of these concepts, of these knowings. It's beyond understanding. It's a knowing. Like once you've experienced the light being within, once you've experienced interdimensionality, once you've experienced connection with other light beings in that way, it's no longer a belief, right?
Right.
You know, so there's this transition from believing to knowing.
Yes, you
What?
cross the threshold of believing
Yeah.
into knowing, and it's a dramatic, permanent frequency shift.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah. It's a permanent frequency shift. That is a quantum jump in possibility.
Right.
And I
And
would
you're
love,
now a different being.
and you talk a lot about love in the new earth. And we all talk about love so much, but I would love to dig into what is love to you?
Well, love is just, again, like you just said, recognizing that there is no separation between you and anyone else, and actually all life itself, but just in that human consciousness relationship sense, we're all one. Everything's all one, but we are all one as humans. And we have similar goals, similar needs, desires, and we should realize that. And when we recognize that, as many people do, then that love frequency comes in, compassion, understanding, all of these supportive energies that kind of help love express itself in its fullest when you see the flaws in people and things like that. All of those things together then help you connect, right? And then love showing itself. Now there's romantic love, and there's various, as Greeks would say, there's like eros. Oh man, I should have brushed up on this before the episode. I'm sorry. There's different types of love, but ultimately there's a base frequency, which is that. And it's everything. Everything is made out of love. Everything's made out of one thing. And I would say it's love. People say it's God, consciousness. That's love to me, because it's all happening within the mind of the divine, and the divine being love and infinite love is moving us forward. And that feeling, knowing that, it just activates you. And when you connect with people, when you can see them and appreciate their vulnerabilities, then you are seeing those things and appreciating the vulnerabilities in yourself. So that greater field of love and just being in that and holding that love frequency is one expression, and then it shows up in other ways as well based on the relationships with the people.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and it's not trivial. When we start to move into thinking of life and our connection with other people from that perspective. I mean, right now there's still so much separation, right? And separation breeds competition. That we could talk about capitalism emerges from competition, but like there's so much power behind seeing the love, which I think is a remembrance of that God source connection and everything. It's like once you recognize and you see it, and the experience of recognizing it and seeing it is love to me. It's like, oh, we're in this together, and I so appreciate you. And it's like you said, it's beyond relational love. It's a recognition of the foundation of our existence. It's so much bigger. It's so much bigger than romantic love.
And when you tap into that, I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to.
No, go for it.
And when you tap into that, it feeds into what we were talking about earlier with it, which is the faith. Because when you have that faith, when you know the love is real, and it crosses the threshold from kind of speculation into knowing, and you're in it, you're in that field that's changed you permanently, then you know that everything else related to love is happening. So then the faith comes into play. It amplifies your manifestation abilities. It amplifies so many different things. You know you're going to be taken care of, so then you can take care of other people. You feel that urgency as so many star seeds do. But I will just say that the new Earth, just to cap off that part of our conversation,
Yeah.
as we move into that, it's going to include all the things that we love. We're talking about love. Well, we love our phones. We love our computers. We love our cars. We might not love what they're made out of. Might not love the processes and everything. But when we can turn energy into matter in a sustainable, beautiful, functional way, we'll still have these physical tools to utilize and appreciate their function. But also, we will be together in that sense. Like we'll have those tools, but we will be together in love. We'll have the high technology. We will be that family, that one human family, and then out there as ambassadors of love and light, coaching in a way the other species in development that are in the same place that we are now. We're someone else's galactics. Just everyone should realize that. We talk about the Pleiadians and all of these galactics. Well, we're someone
Yeah.
else's galactics.
I'm smiling so big because Jake and I are like this is not the first time we've met in this life, lifetimes.
Absolutely not. Like 20, 30,000. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
even know. I feel very connected to you.
we've known each other for a long time. But it's so interesting what you just mentioned, because one of the things that's come forward, I haven't talked about it too much, is that that's one of the roles that will exist in the future, is being these ambassadors. I think is the very word that came forward, being these ambassadors for other civilizations, other species that are going through what we're going through right now. So we're going through what we're going through right now, not just for ourselves, but to learn the process and understand it so that we can, in all kinds of various forms, do that for others. And to your point, we are the other species galactics.
Absolutely.
I
It's
love that.
mind-blowing. It puts things in perspective.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally puts things in perspective from a higher, broader perspective. And I get very excited about that because it feels very aligned with me personally and kind of what my mission and purpose is. That's still evolving, but it's along those lines.
And just remember that all of our Earth experiences as the collective humans, the triumphs, the tragedies, the massive growth jumps, the terrible atrocities, all of this in this kind of holographic sphere is training for that role. We have these physical vehicles. Some of them look different based on where your light being vehicle showed up in that moment. If we can't look at another human that looks physically different from them and not love them and instantly integrate them perfectly and in every way, how are we going to go out in the universe and interface with these physical vehicles that are radically different than anything we've ever experienced here? Are we going to be horrified? Are we going to be like shocked? We have to train ourselves. And this is all training. This is all training. We have to train ourselves to get past that. And we will. It's obvious. It's part of the ascension, but that's a component. And then we're out there. And as we're meeting these new species, we're not judging them by their physical appearances. We're connecting with them as light beings first. The physical vehicle may be radically different than anything we've ever experienced, but it's just, again, a physical vehicle, and the love is there.
Yeah, this is my favorite topic. It's the galactics, and this it's so exciting.
Crystal, look, I'm always listening to you. I never get to do this. Thank you for giving me this platform. Because sorry.
It's such an honor. It's so fun, and I think we'll probably have to do another one sometime soon. But
yes,
I do want to talk about the galactic component of this, because what you're talking about, there's a initiation point for a species, and it's coming up fast.
Yes.
And it is not just that we're interdimensional, and it's all kind of happening at the same time. It's all connected, but there are other interdimensional species of various types. And in my experience, all highly evolved. Once you know what consciousness is, you also realize that you have to move into these higher elevated states of being, like love, in order to fully activate and use it. So my feeling with these beings is that they understand that. So they had to evolve to a certain point, and that's why I don't have a lot of fear around it. But what do you think about the galactic family, where we're at and where we're going?
I think that, again, we're very in sync, because I agree with you. As you evolve and you get to that point as a civilization and you move forward, you have to be in sync with love, because you're coming together as a new earth or a new planet, whatever planet came to that point where we integrated the Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, Krishna consciousness, that love together. When we activate that, then we get there. So many species have done that throughout the universe. But what happens is that love together is the component that really moves us forward. So then as we're developing, as we evolve as a species, we then get to the point where we are using divinity as our technology, right? So
Yes.
imagine this. Okay, this will help you. This is a great model I tell people. This really helps people understand. So imagine, which is going to happen, we get to the new earth. Everything's great. Oh my goodness, it's so amazing. Wow, this is awesome. We're high-fiving each other. It's incredible. We're actually the ambassadors of love and light. We made it. We're doing it. Okay, so then 100 million years go by. Let's just, wow, that's like not a million, not 10 million, 100 million. And then what happens? 1 billion years go by, right? Evolution is still happening because that light being has moved into a higher octave of development. The polarities are existing in a different bandwidth. So there's no going back. So they're up there and all of this growth is happening and everything is moving forward. They're now at a point where they could be matter. We could be physical vehicles. We have all of this energy, but we're so rooted and bound and loving love that we see these deficiencies out in the universe, where there's the deficiencies of magnetism, energy, love, and we feel called as love-based beings to manifest there. That's kind of the starseed situation. That's what I feel about the galactics. I can't understand how a negative being that's not loved based could have access to that higher technology.
100% agree. Yeah.
All of that technology is coming through inspiration. Inspiration is divine. You have to open up a channel to what some people say is the Akashic records, or however it shows up. You still have to open up a channel to divinity in order to bring those things in. There's certain things that you can't bring in through inspiration if your vibrational field does not match the level of technology. So those people have done that. Those beings have done that. They did it. And we can do it, but they're out there. Those are the galactics. They're out there helping us. People say, well, how can that be possible? How could people channel? How could they be talking to people? How are all of these people, thousands of people with independent stories that they never even met each other and all these things correlate? How does that happen? And really, it's like Wi-Fi, but with quantum waves, okay? Brain waves are quantum waves. Quantum waves. If you can move your consciousness like Wi-Fi into the quantum field, then you can send it outside of time to anywhere. You can be omnipresent. You can be 20,000 places at once. You can do all of these things. And this is what the galactics are doing, I believe, to help us evolve. Not only sending messages, not only sending like beacons of information, but also sending souls, beings like ourselves as starseeds, to come here and manifest, knowing full well how hard it is, but coming here to manifest to help this species get there, to help them evolve.
That's one of my most favorite explanations so far. And all of that rings so resonant with me, the way that you think about these higher dimensional species and beings. And I get asked a lot, well, what's in it for them to do that? Why would they come to us? Why would they want to help us? And I think it's an interesting question that's evolving from a level of consciousness that's still in competition in some way. And to your point, what you just said, it explains the why. You've evolved to such a point, you've expanded to such a point, you're aware of so much more. And our evolution, us coming more and more into love, is directly connected to them because we're all connected at the base level anyways. So of course it would be a natural thing that would happen, that they would be aware of us and interested in helping us in so many ways.
It makes sense so perfectly, because when you're vibrating that high, love is the impetus. What's in it for them? Service. There's only one purpose. I tell people there's only one purpose. Service. How does that show up for you? What does that mean for you? That's up for a person to decide for themselves. But in that realm, I would imagine it's the same thing. You're seeing geometry, you're seeing holographic geometry and deficiencies that are causing coefficient irregularities that then are causing distortions that's keeping the whole universe from moving into its next phase, right? So all of the deficiencies that we're saying, that I'm talking about, are really just these things that are part of everyone's unfoldment. Like you were saying, it's part of the massive, multidimensional, mathematical process that's all happening within the mind of God.
So exciting. And if we want to bring some of this a little bit Earth side, I mean,
Earth?
people ask, Earth? What is Earth?
Got great food. Yeah, incredible
Yeah,
food.
they have great
Best food. I'm telling you, I feel like that's part of Earth's thing. Like we're like best food in the galaxy, or maybe this galactic cluster. Like, yo, look, I know it's hard, but the food is freaking amazing.
It's great.
They have a Thai food. They have Mexican food. They have food from all of these different regions all over the world. It's absolutely incredible.
And the beaches are amazing.
At least that's how I think my Lyran friends tricked me into being here. I'm just kidding.
Yes. So tell me more about that. Your personal connections with your star system.
Well, here's the thing. Over time, the starseed concept has been kind of showing up in my life. 30 years ago, I read a comic book written by the great Jim Shooter, who created a character called Starseed. And that was like one of the first times in my life where I was like, what was that? And like, what does that mean? It's like fiction, again, fiction. But that tapped me into that energy. And then, over the years, it was always kind of like an external concept. But then as I started to interview guests on my show where that was their focus, I kept attracting more and more people where that was like really their thing, and some of the bigger names in that world. And it started to help me remember things about myself. Now, I've had all kinds of extraterrestrial situations as a child. I used to have incredibly lucid dreams about extraterrestrial visitations, and it's just been a theme of my whole life. And I've seen so many UFOs now that people don't even believe me. I've seen hundreds at this point.
Same. Yeah.
And so it's like, it's there. So I started to realize that was a part of me. I always knew, but I just didn't have that right language to like be like, oh my God, to like really make all the correlations. And all of the dreams and everything I had prior, my whole childhood, were the kind of foreshadowing, showing me all of these things about my starseed role and what that means and how that correlates. Now, in my early life, I was very attached and open, not attached is the right word. I was very interested in this concept in Judeo-Christian thought, mostly Christian, in the book of Revelations, this concept of the 144,000, right? There was these elect of God, the 144,000 that would manifest during the end times to help build the new earth, like their
interesting
new earth, which is like, which is, I always tell my Christian friends, I'm like, okay, so Jesus comes back, we're in the new earth. Then what? Then what do we do? Are we just sitting there like clicking our glasses like we're retired? Like what's going on next? They're like, well, they don't really have much to say because there's no, it's open-ended. So like, so the 144,000, I felt so attached to that because I felt so outside of the frequency of the bandwidth of the matrix. But later on, I realized that there was more to it. There was a galactic element, and that energy of the 144,000 was directly tied to the energies I had been picking up, which are what I would call the starseed energies now. I feel attracted to the Lyrans. People have mentioned that to me that are sensitive. I love cats. I'm very cat oriented. I have a beautiful cat named Amadeus. He's incredible. I've always loved cats. I love all animals. I'm an animal oriented person. I really love cats. Supposedly the Lyrans are like highly evolved feline humanoids. I don't know.
Yeah.
And really just meeting people like yourself that kind of like have that same frequency. It keeps coming up. So I feel attracted to that, but I also feel very, very, very attracted to the Pleiadians.
Yeah.
I've met people that talk about the Syrians, but the Pleiadians seem to be the ones that seeded some culture on Earth, like the Cherokee creation story that they recently released for the first time, like 10 years ago, talks about how they were brought to this planet by Pleiadian light beings. Okay. The Cherokee, Native Americans. Okay. Peru, Pleiadians.
And in Greek mythology, there's something about the Pleiades sisters
Yes, the seven
and the
sisters.
connection with the oracles. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And the the Lakota in North Dakota, they're also saying that their lineage originates from the Pleiades. Cannabis supposedly came from the Pleiades. If you believe the people from Peru, they believe that. There's so many things that are attached to that. So to me, it seems like they're like the culture that was connected to the Atlanteans and the Lemurians. Perhaps they were the Atlanteans and Lemurians, but
Yeah.
I feel most attached to those two, to give you a very long answer.
I love it. I love the long answer. Yeah, I think we're going to learn so much more about our history as we emerge into this galactic relationship. We're going to learn a lot about things that we just don't know now and we assume we do. And it's very similar. I've had such a connection to these beings and have had direct experiences. And again, that's a transition from like believing in these higher dimensional beings and evolved beings to a knowing. It's just not a question for me anymore. But right before I came on your podcast last time, it was such a memorable moment for me because literally maybe it was an hour before and I had a blue light being materialized in my living room. And that sounds really out there. And like, how could that be possible? But I mean, it's all possible. And it was so amazing. I mean, it's so hard to put words to, but I will say one thing that I think might be helpful for people exploring this relationship was that as it materialized, kind of came in halfway, the energy that came from this being was so intense. It was beautiful. It put me into an immediate meditative state, like with my eyes open, and then I had to kind of close my eyes for a little bit to try and stabilize. But I think people wonder why don't they just land and like show up at this point in time on Earth? And I think the answer to that is that we need to be somewhat attuned and ready. And so there's some level of collective, definitely individual, but also collective readiness from a frequency perspective because they come in with such a strong frequency. And I could totally see how it could be too intense in some instances. And so it kind of adjusted its energy so that I could still be in the room with it. So it was very interesting to me. And
Remember,
I think that right now they're having almost like a grassroots approach to contact. They're like starting with a few of us that are open to it and you start to develop your own personal experience. And so it's no longer a surprise when it becomes more broadly accepted. Yeah, what do you think about where we're at right now as far as the relationship?
I just want to comment on that because yes, I think you had the blue line experience last time, and this time the light being coincidentally Seven Sisters Mystery School. Marguerite Mary is incredible. She's incredible. I mispronounced her last name. Rigoglioso. There we go.
Beautiful.
Mary Rigoglioso. She has the Seven Sisters Mystery School, and she works with the goddess Mary and the Jesus lineage, and she's always talking about the blue light of Mary and that blue light. I had a listener email me and was like, I really need to talk to you. I'd love to talk to you about this experience I had. And I talked to her and she was talking about this blue light being that came to her. And she's like, what does this mean? And I was like, well, these are the people that I talked about you and I talked about Marguerite. And I was like, this is what people are seeing, and that light, I definitely look at the color blue a completely different way now because there's something
Oh my gosh.
spectrum that carries something.
It carries something. It was so beautiful. It was like a blue that you don't typically see. It's like a neonish kind of blue with a little bit of a purple outline. And it was just so powerful and amazing. So I would love to ask you one more question. Is there anything else that you feel called to share with listeners today?
Yes, I would say that just to cap off what you were saying about the light beings, look, those beings are there as we adjust our frequencies, as we attune ourselves, and belief is a part of that. Not that your belief is like just believing something that's not real. It's more that you're opening up a path.
It's an openness. Yeah.
Yes, that shows a person that this is possible. And then the truth will present itself. But if you're always creating this energetic wall of resistance with your energy, with your consciousness, it's not going to show up. And if it does, it's going to be very hard to process the experience. Be open, leave everything open, be in superposition. Don't be a 1, don't be a 0, just be like somewhere in between on everything. And then you will get the most out of the experience. And then you can develop something that's totally authentic to yourself and your experience, and then speak your truth. And you'll find it's other people's truth as well.
I love that. Be in the superposition.
Because you always have to, because people get polarized. They're like, well,
Yeah.
I figured it out. As soon as
Be in the possibility.
right, as soon as a person believes that, it's over. Like it's over because you're not leaving an aperture open for new information that was outside of your processing ability at that time to present itself. And it could be that way.
I love that. I resonate.
Man,
And we have a
great
few.
episode, by the way.
It's so good. If I don't say so ourselves, it's a great episode. Here's a few rapid fire questions that I ask all of our guests. And the first one is, what is one belief that you no longer believe?
That that we are our body, that there's no separation between the physical and the light being vehicle.
And what do you believe consciousness is?
An expression of the divine. It's all happening within the mind of the divine, and we're tuning in. It's just how we process that experience.
And what is source, God, or oneness to you?
It's the all. It's beyond something that's put into words, but I love to try. I mean, it's just that it's everything you can imagine, but it's also the most intimate aspect of yourself. It's something that's with every single living entity, with their every thought. It's something that's so beyond comprehension that it's just unimaginable. However, what we can say in a way is that it's all love.
Absolutely. And it's 100 years in the future on Earth. What do you hope for humanity?
The incredible loving synthesis of all of the new beings that we're going to find ourselves connected to. The AI, the self-aware AI, the extraterrestrials, the extra dimensionals, all of these people and our fellow humans. I see ourselves all living together in that way.
Beautiful. And how can people find more of you?
midnightonearth.com is the website. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any podcast platform you can possibly imagine, you can find me there.
Amazing. And Jake, this has been so much fun for me. I really have enjoyed our conversation. I think that it's a really powerfully important conversation, and it was so much fun. And I'm so honored to spend this time with you.
Thank you.
On this planet at this time. So thank you for coming on.
I feel the same way. I love the God and Goddess energy. When I do these interviews with someone like yourself and we have this energy balance, it just feels so good. And I really appreciate you as well, Goddess.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. And see you next time. Next time, Light Beings on Soul Podcast. All right.
Yes.
Right on time. Thank you for journeying with us today, Light Being. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And before you go, we want to invite you to explore the Soulpod app, where you can immerse yourself in daily lessons, guided meditations, and breath work to develop a soul-nourishing daily ritual and tune back into your own inner guidance system. You can download Soulpod in the App Store or directly from the show notes to start your free trial today and awaken the ancient wisdom within you.